So I was thinking about recipe books, or the cookbook. Um, a cookbook has two types of information about the world of recipes. One is a bunch of recipes that you can make, and they hopefully taste good or at least consistent. But the other thing is that the way the recipes are laid out, that each recipe, it's like got the ingredients here and the steps here, or the ingredients are interleaved with the steps, or what have you, right? That is called the recipe template. That's what I'm going to call that. Okay, so that's two different things. One is actual recipes, and then the other is sort of this way of being able to write a lot of different recipes. There are a lot of recipes for life, a lot of ways to live, a lot of things that you can use as ingredients or whatever else. And relativistic skepticism, I've been describing as relativistic skepticism, is not one of these recipes per se. You can see it as that, but it is a recipe template. It's a way of describing recipes in this common form so they can be compared and stuff. As such, you can say it's a recipe for life because you can live looking at recipes for life this way. Now, luckily, with relativistic skepticism, you can face this problem of, wait, what about the next abstraction? What if you're writing a book about recipe books? Right? You're writing a book about recipe books, so you're writing a book about recipe templates. Relativistic skepticism can do that as well. We have a lot of problems with infinite regression in philosophy, so it's good to have a system that you can apply to itself. A lot of systems you can't. But sometimes, for example, in logic and math, you can make a clean system that applies to itself, but not entirely alone. And that's why we're faced with the fact that we're committing to the recipe. When we do that, anytime you make a recipe template, you're going to potentially be ignoring things. Like most recipe books don't necessarily go into a lot about the altitude, but a cook knows the altitude is very important. But it's not a part of the template. The recipe book might even mention that it's an issue and say, here's how you change all the numbers or something. It's not necessarily part of the template. And the templates are always like this. They might not include some variable that really should be parameterized and isolated in the template so it can be told to the person reading the template. Right? Like, what if your template didn't have the steps, just the ingredients, cook them? Or the steps didn't say the temperature for the oven, and it was just supposed to figure that out or know that. If you have a template deficient like that, then that template imposes a lot on your philosophies, because basically it prevents any philosophy that relies, any recipe of life that relies on a particular setting in that area, and you don't allow there to be a specification for a setting in that area. But as time progresses, what you start to have a lot of incomplete recipe templates, they start to progress into a family. Instead of a million incomplete recipe templates, you'll have like 5 or 6 pretty complete competitors, and a million variations on those. And the 5 or 6 competitors will tend to be complete for the same kind of features, at least obvious ones that everybody sort of admits are a part of it, Usually, one template works better in one circumstance, and another template works better in another. But they'll all kind of cover everything. And over time, you start to get very good templates and templates of templates, and an understanding of why one template fits one circumstance better than another. And you can have pretty inclusive things in terms of all the logic is coherent, but you have to determine which to use based on something else, and the practicality. And this is where I think relativistic skepticism starts to lead to one of the recipes. It's not that relativistic skepticism is a recipe. But if you make your philosophy fit the relativistic skeptic template, you know, and you're going to state your biases and various other things I can go into what that template is, then, you know, for example, you can't have a dishonest liars kind of a philosophy. You know, some things are going to be precluded. And what do the philosophies not precluded have in common? You know? Well, they're pro-life, and they admit the, you know, importance of sensible perceptions. Okay. Cheers.